Hey guys, it's Charlie here with you, and I'm going to be showing you around the Bailey Adamo on your handover video. So to get under the bonnet, twist to the left, then to the right, and as you twist to the right, you can then lift up the bonnet. Now that just there is you're connected to your positive on your vehicle battery. So that's the terminal we need to be connecting a positive to if we're going to charge or jump start the engine at any point. We've got the windscreen top up over here, your oil top up there, your dipstick is just below over here, and then we've got the coolant for the vehicle, which is on the right hand side, and the steering fluid, which is on the left hand side. So all nice and easy to get to. Dropping the bonnet down again, just open up the cab doors with the top button on the key. And the reason I'm doing that is to show you your safe, easy fill diesel fill up point. And then below that, you've got your fill up for the AdBlue. Now AdBlue typically, once you fill it up, it takes around 10 litres and it will do you for another 4,000 miles on average. On your clocks, on the computer screen in front in the cab, you can check out how many the range on your AdBlue to make sure and see just how much you've got till you get to zero, just like you can with your diesel and your miles. Then we've got the hookup point, which is just here. So the vehicle is plugged in at the moment, and what this is going to do is this is going to power all your high powered electrical systems in the vehicle along with charging the batteries up. So you will get more out of a motorhome with the hookup lead in. Now when I say high powered electric systems, I mean things like the boiler, the heater, the fridge has a main setting which is on this, and any socket that relates to the sockets that you get into your own household will be powered by this lead. Further down to that, we've got the toilet cassette. Now to empty the cassette, we push the two buttons in, drop the hatch, the little orange bit should be in that little recess, pick it up like so to bring it out of the recess, and there's a handle on top so we can carry the cassette over to a designated emptying area. You then want to twist this round, get the cap off the end like so, and quite literally tip out the remnants of the cassette. We then can use the actual lid itself as a measuring beaker, ounces and mil, and you want to fill this up with your blues and tip it back into the cassette, not only to keep the smells fresh but also to break down any solids that are in there, making it easier to empty. Pushing it back in, we need to make sure that orange clip is behind its retainer. When we come round to the near side garage door, opening that up, you can push the clip into the retainer over there. These little vents here are obviously for ventilation in the vehicle. We've got some power sockets. Any socket that looks like that works off your leisure battery. Any that looks like that needs the mains hookup lead putting in. The reason I brought you into the garage is because behind here is this, your boiler drain valve, and that is how you're going to drain off the boiler in the motorhome. The garage is by the by, you know, it's a garage. You fill it up, put all your stuff in. You've got your tie down points, you've got your infill cushions, awning wind out tool, hookup lead, hose pipe, inflation kit, cab mats, fill up hose pipe, a pedal lock, the strengthener for the awning, which is the rafter, and I think there's also a steering wheel lock as well in there. So full of gummins, all there ready for you to load up. The bike rack's obviously quite obvious. Reverse camera, all we say is don't get too close with the jet wash. You can adjust that reverse camera to look further down if you did want to, or further up. Around to this side of the garage, just again more storage. There's your hose pipe to fill up with a little adapter in there to plug into a normal socket, and there are the mats, and that there is your inflation kit. Closing that garage door up, spin round to the right, same again with the bottom, leaving it open for the handover obviously. That's where we fill the water up. With that hose pipe in the back of there, you push it into that connector and onto a normal hose pipe or a tap outside, and that is going to then fill up the fresh water tank. You've got a 95 litre fresh water tank, and you can obviously go on the control panel inside to keep an eye on how much water's in the tank so we know when to turn off the hose pipe. You then, obviously, you have a fresh water tank, you pump that water around, it comes out your shower, it goes through a drain hole and into your grey water tank, which is that tank just there. Well, you can't really see it, it's in between the chassis, and that's your wastewater. Then to empty the wastewater out, because you've got a 90 litre wastewater tank, so it'll carry everything, all the water you've filled up and used, you just need to use this here. So if I give that a pull, it opens it up and drains off your wastewater. If I push it in, that'll slowly stop it, like so. This here is for your heating hot water. So when your boiler is running on gas, this vent will actually, just like at home, you turn the boiler on, the steam comes out your house, exactly the same here. So that is your exhaust for your boiler when running on gas. On the topic of gas should always be switched off when travelling anywhere. The bottle should always be strapped in when travelling anywhere. But when we come to set the vehicle up, after we've plugged the vehicle in like we have, you just want to come to your gas bottle, turn the brass fitting on top left, and that's going to allow gas to purge out into the actual regulator and down through the copper pipes into the motorhome. Now, obviously, once you've plugged the vehicle in, like we have with the hookup lead, turned the gas on and started filling up with water, they're the 3 fuels that we're going to need to operate this motorhome to its full potential. So walking around now, we'll head on inside. One thing I'll double check for you, which we may need to be careful of, is the door swinging around and hitting the hookup. So if we use the bottom button to unlock the back door, does hit it just, you see, if you go around. It is locked, that's locked out there on the gas strut, and there's a tiny little gap, but just be ever so careful. So I'm going to shut that behind myself just to make sure the wind doesn't. In the motorhome now, as you can see, well, you can't now until I do this, everything's off, nothing on, so we get setting up from scratch. So even there, look, got no power on the heating, we've not turned anything on at all. So when we first come in, that's a great sign. The hookup lead there identifies that hookup we plugged in just out there is powered and on. So if I click on, it'll say master on and wake the screen up, and then water tank nearly empty, press enter to silence that alarm. So what that's saying is we need more fresh water. Now if I cycle through these arrows here, I can go into the settings by clicking enter, and I can go on the display, change the contrast, the standby, how long the screen will stay on for until it turns off, and using the arrows and enter to adjust those. Return home, back to the main screen, sound, notifications, what firmware you've got, save and exit. Once we go past the settings, we've got the fresh water tank levels. We've got the battery select on there, which I think is just for the leisure. I don't think you can actually change to any other battery, I think, because it's automated on this one. Yeah, was it doing? So what that means is on some models you have to select which battery you wish to use and change over to. On this particular model, it will start charging the vehicle battery once the leisure battery is fully charged, and obviously your alternator will be charging your vehicle battery as well. So here we've got the water levels again. So wastewater's at 0, which basically means it's below what it can read on the readers. So it could have a little bit in there, but not quite enough to hit the first reader. And normal water level is at 2%, so we definitely need more. External temperature, internal temperature, how much current running off the battery, what voltage we've got in the leisure and the vehicle battery, and then back to the main screen. These 3 here that we've not used yet are all switches. So this one is the main light switch, which will turn every light off and on. This one here is the awning light, awning on, awning off. And this here is your water pump. So water pump on, water pump off. So they're all switches. This here operates the table, as you know already. And you know, to make the bed up, you pull this out like so, you fold this over, you click down on there, and you drop the table down in that position, and quite literally get your cushions out the back and fill in the gaps to making up your front bed. Once that's all the way back up, these here are light switches. So the one on the right does your front lounge, the one on the left does the higher up lights in your front lounge. This one does singularly just that light, and this one on the left does your kick lights. This here will work off your leisure battery, so we can charge off of USB from the leisure. Just turn your fridge on, hold this button, and this is your startup sequence. It's then going to start straight on gas. If I hold this button in, it'll start flashing, to which then I use the arrows to navigate which power source I wish to use. A is automatic, that's the hookup lead I showed you outside, that's your vehicle battery, and that's gas. So for the sake of demonstration, we'll put it on the hookup, and then we've got to choose a temperature all the way from 1 through to 5. Right, fridge controls then. You've got A, hookup, battery and gas. A is automatic, and it'll always choose the hookup first if you've got it on A mode. So if I hold this in, you'll see now, if I click on A and click, and click again, it goes straight to hook up. If I unplug the vehicle whilst it's on A mode, whilst with the gas still on, it'll flick over to gas on its own. If I then turned off the gas bottle and started the engine, it'd flick to battery on its own. So automatic's going to choose all the power sources for you, favouring the hookup first, gas second and battery third. The hookup and the gas setting will reduce the temperature of the fridge. The battery setting will only maintain a temperature of a fridge. So if you're going away at 12 midday, at 11 o'clock, hook up all gas, reduce the temperature right down. At midday, then once you're ready to set off, you'll set off and it will go onto battery. And then once you arrive at your campsite, it'll be the exact same temperature as when you've set off. So it's just going to maintain the coldness of the fridge. Your TV is 12 volt, use that lever just there, pull that lever out, and then you can pull the whole mechanism of the telly out. To plug it in, you get your little 12 volt plug in and shove that in your plug-in up there, which you'll now notice we've got the red light on. Then obviously what we want to do is every time we go from Derbyshire to Nottinghamshire and X, Y and Z Yorkshire, we need to retune the television. But as of now, it's got power, we just need to turn it on, retune it, and away we go. In the cupboards above the cab, you've got storage there, which is great, and same over here, more storage. On this right hand side, what you can see is this here, which is a little signal finder, just to find some signals, and it'll tell you how much it's getting. And then you've got your booster, so you'll have one of these in your loft. You'll have an aerial on your roof, a cable going from the aerial to your booster, and your booster then sending two cables out, so they can put a television point up there, and they can also put a television point over here, just here, both coming from the same aerial. Right, so we've done all these controls around here, the storage, the table up and down, you know about the chairs, don't really need to go through that with you upon handover. So I'm just going to put this in here so it's not making the side look an absolute mess, a bit tidier. So in the kitchen now, and we've got the microwave, the oven, hob and grill, the basin unit, the heating, hot water and your sockets and light switches. So your left light switch does the top, your right light switch does your frame. These two sockets here will only ever work when the vehicle's plugged in on mains. And this is your heating, hot water. So what we've got is room temperature, water temperature, power source, fan speed, timer, settings. So if I click to wake up and use this little scroller to scroll through the settings, if I click on here, I can then scroll and set the temperature to 22 degrees. I can then go on my water and there's off, eco, which is 40 degrees hot water, hot, which is 70 degrees hot water, and boost, which is the hot setting, but it borrows power from the heating. We've then got the fuel source, which is either gas if we're wild camping with no hookup lead, mix one if we're on a campsite that's got a low amp hook plug-in, so you don't want to trip the electrics out, so use 1 kilowatt on gas mixed together, which equates to 3.5 kilowatts. Mix 2, which is your most highest power setting, 2 kilowatts of electric and gas mixed together to equate to 5 kilowatts all in all of power. Or if we're at home and we don't want to use much electric 1. If we're on a campsite and we've paid for the electric, you might as well use electric 2. For the sake of handovers, I always work on mix 2. And then you've got your fan speed, just here, eco or high, and you'll see you get 1 or 2 fan blades lighting up. So when I click out this menu now, I can tell you it's 7 minutes past 1 in the morning. We've set the heating to 22 degrees. We've set the water temperature to hot, which is 70. We're using gas and 2 kilowatts of electric on the high fan speed. Then down at the bottom, this one here is a normal timer. So you can, if I click enter, those settings will run for 8 hours and turn off. This one's a daily event timer. So I could say at 8 AM every single morning that I've got the vehicle plugged in. If I click that now, at 8 AM every morning whilst the vehicle's on and plugged in, it will turn those settings on with pre-selected. In the settings, you've got offset, so we can offset the temperature being centigrade or Fahrenheit, this screen brightness, what hour clock, what language, index to tell you about the panel and your reset. Now the reason the reset's in there is because if you was to, like when we just came in then, it had WA455H fault code because we had no power on. I plugged the vehicle in, but I hadn't turned the control panel on, so there was no power being sent there, so it was coming up with a fault. Now Truma will clear its own fault, so once it receives power, it'll clear the fault and act as normal. But if ever it doesn't, click into your settings, go right to the end, click reset, click it again, and it'll go straight through. I'll be honest, Your microwave's a microwave. Don't know much about microwaves other than instant start, keep clicking that. It is an induction microwave, so there's no plate in there. You can just put it straight in and away you go, which is a big bonus, because it also then means you've got no glass microwave plate that you've got to take out every time you drive somewhere rattling around. On your hobs, it's just as you know, that's your igniter. You push in and twist and it just lights as normal. You might have to hold it on for a couple of seconds to get the thermocouple nice and warm, but it's just as you know. And then you've got your electric hob top, which you quite literally spin and that turns it on. In the kitchen, we've got various forms of storage, as you can see, with the levels in there. Underneath here, more storage, and then all your rackings and your trays like these you'll be taking out before you drive anywhere, just to make sure the motorhome is going to be quiet as possible. Now, underneath the front seat just here, I'm just making sure, it's just your passenger seat, and underneath this one here, just your passenger seat, just making sure with that. Kitchen cupboard, just your plug in there for your microwave. Your shower is by the by. Once you've got your water pump turned on and your hot water going, you just turn your shower on and away you go. Under here is, because motorhomes have push fit connectors, they all need to be accessible. And then under here is your wastewater tank that I told you about just outside. And so we need to be able to access that, which is why we've got this access point just here. And close that off. You then, under that step, have storage, and you also, under this step, have more storage. To lift this floor hole out, you've then got your freshwater tank. So we need to open this up, and underneath this should be a ball and chain. And that plug there is how we drain off your fresh water tank. Now, an important thing when having your boiler system on, so that's obviously draining it down, but when you've actually got your boiler system on, what we need to do when we're setting the motorhome up is, we've gone through now, we've turned the boiler on, we've turned the heating on as well, but what we need to do, which is probably why this wasn't in the first place, is simply turn the water pump on and run some water through that hot side on the left. Once you get a solid stream of water like this, you're ready to go. And the same on the right side. When you first set this vehicle up, all the hoses and everything will be filled with air. So essentially what we need to do is get those airlocks out so it's all filled with water and primed. So once I've turned on my heating hot water, and once I've got water in the system, turn the pump on, open your taps up, and just wait until you get a solid stream of water just like this. You'll get a lot of coughing and spluttering, and then when it goes like that, you know you're ready to go and your water system's primed up and your heating's on properly. If not, you're just going to be warming up a boiler with no water in it. Other than that, guys, you know where to drain all your water off, your waste, your fresh, and your boiler. Last things last is your toilet. This light comes on when the cassette's full, even though it's about two to three 2s and 4 1s. This button here is the flush for the toilet. And then once you flush your toilet, you need to get that into the cassette, and to do that, you'd have it like that. Well, to be honest with you, you'll have the trap door open the entire time you sat on the toilet, and then close it when you're done, like that. Got some storage behind the mirror. Basin unit, more storage below. Light switches in the corner. You've got the ambidextrous door, which, not ambidextrous, probably the wrong word. I don't know actually, probably the right word. That closes on both sides, so you can lock it all off completely and separate the front to back. And that's about it, guys. Looking forward to obviously having you over. I know the cab's just a forward cab, very self-explanatory. We've got everything on and cooking and ready, and we look forward to seeing you soon.